Hey guys, welcome to Build Order Win. My name is TheTRUTH, and today we're going to be looking at the first map 1v1 ladder map pool breakdown video. As you can tell, this map is Expedition Lost, or as you may have been able to tell. The reason for that is probably because it's been in the map pool for over one full season now. It was a map that I honestly wasn't sure if it was going to make it back for the season that we're in right now. But before we get into the nitty-gritty and all the fun stuff about this map, since this is the first video for my map pool, ladder map breakdown, whatever I'm going to call it, I'm just going to introduce a little bit about what you expect to see in this video as well as future videos. So it's just all going to be about talking about this map. I'm going to be a bit more specific when it comes to the particular matchups that you're going to be playing on each map. But more importantly, what I'm going to focus on is, number one, the core features of each map, and number two, the strategies that make sense to use on each map because of that, and then number three, the stuff that I use. All of this is just to give you a better understanding of how you might want to approach this map when you're thinking of different styles that you want to play and try out, and also maybe you see maybe, you know, I'll tell you one of my ideas, maybe you'll try that out as well. And I guess last thing I'm going to say, one of the build orders I do use that I will be showing later on in this channel's history, it's not coming out well, is going to be used here, but I'm not going to go into depth on that build order. So anyway, first things first, this map is the smallest map in the ladder map pool right now, I believe at least. It has backdoor destructible rocks in each main base, of course. This is like the first map in a long time that's had this. And then the third big thing about this map is that the third base is a pain to take as a Protoss player. So yeah, considering all these three aspects of this map, it's easy to see how a lot of aggressive strategies and all-in strategies make sense. Simply because you have a short rush distance, you've got a third base that if you try to take too early, you're going to get behind if your opponent attacks you, most likely. And then these backdoor rocks are definitely a pain to deal with as well. Your opponent can do something aggressive to you if you try to play too passively, and thus exploit this, you know, pressure from all different angles, especially if you're on a third base. Even with versus Terran player, it's a pain. But so yeah, those are the three main aspects of this map that I would say you should be concerning yourself about. It does have two gold bases, but I'm not going to get into that because as a Protoss player, you really can't take advantage of these bases that well. But yeah, so considering these three aspects of this map, like I said, it is a good map to do aggressive styles on. So my personal play style in this map, and my advice as well, would just to be, you know, don't rush into taking a third base. This is the hardest part about playing this map, is taking a third base, I would say. And so when you think about a strategy that would make sense, you should be looking to do something aggressive that leads into taking a third base, or do something aggressive that leads into killing your opponent. So again, either an all-in or something aggressive to make delaying your third base viable. So in this game, we're playing versus Zerg, so we'll start off by looking at that. I do want to say, versus Protoss, it doesn't really matter. A lot of these different aspects of the map don't really come to play. Doing like two-base attacks to try to kill your opponent's third base is going to be viable on most maps, so it's not really anything unique to this map in the regard of Protoss versus Protoss. But so like I said, versus Zerg, the go-to strategy for me on maps like this, where the third base is hard to take, is I like to deny the third base from the Zerg player. The biggest thing I look for in that aspect is how much creep spread do they need to get up to their third base. On this map, you can see it's a long distance. I don't know how to zoom out further, but whatever, you get the idea. It's a long distance to get over here, which means the queens aren't going to help out, which means they can't get spine crawlers up here to help defend either. In this particular game, I go for a very fast +1 attack. It's almost done by the 7-minute mark, and it will be done by the 7-minute mark, actually. And the purpose of this is, of course, so that I can totally destroy Zerglings, and that's the Zerg's first line of defense versus aggressive stuff like this. And that's usually the unit they're going to rely on to take a third base if there is to be some pressure on it. So once again, I don't want to get too much into this build order that I'm using, but instead just focus on the idea of denying a Zerg's third base. So let's say you go for some Void Rays to do this. How can they defend that? Well, Queens or Hydralisks, right? Well, they need a lair for Hydras, and they need creep spread to get their Queens over here. So either way, you're delaying that just by having one Void Ray out quickly. You're delaying that for a long time. And so this is sort of how I think you should be thinking about this map. Of course, that's just one approach, which is denying their third base. There's obviously other ones, such as more committed attacks, you know, destroying these back rocks and really pressuring them on both fronts. But okay, so in regards to playing versus Zerg defensively, you know, taking a third base is something I would suggest going for in this map, just not at a normal timing, of course. And these back rocks are really annoying. The third base has this backdoor pathway, it has this ramp, this ramp. Your army is usually going to be around here, so you can defend your natural and your third. But then, of course, you're out of position to defend the rocks, and there's still a big, wide open area for fighting. So a couple things I would suggest is making a little bit of a wall, with buildings, and then walling this off with some buildings as well. And then versus Terran and versus Zerg, if they destroy these rocks, having a sentry here is very useful, and honestly almost necessary, I would say. So, and that's for force field, of course. Okay, so that covers pretty much all of Zerg that I want to mention. Sorry. When playing versus Terran, alright, so we're getting too far ahead in this replay, it's too short. When playing versus Terran, denying the third base is not nearly as easy because they have a lot of strategies where they can sit on two bases for a while. And not only that, but it's just more difficult to even deny that from them in the first place. You really need to commit more to doing so, and thus you're not going to gain as much of an advantage if you're successful, and I guess it's going to be hard to do it as well. So when you're playing versus Terran, the styles I think are best suited for this map are going to be similar to Zerg, where you want to delay your own third base. Normally I wouldn't really take it later than 11 minutes. On this map, I'll take it at like 13 minutes. In the meantime, though, I might make an Oracle to do some harassment. I might do some other Warp Prism stuff, or do some Warp Prism stuff like Storm Drop. Use the Warp Prism, set it up, warp in charge lots, and then bring the rest of my army to attack their third base. Just stuff like that. You're going to have like a short window where you'll have an opportunity to move out on the map because you delay your third base, and then also do some harassment with the oracles or a warp prism and that sort of thing. If you don't want to take that approach, you can always, of course, do an all-in. I think a lot of Terran players don't like this map versus Protoss because immortal all-ins on two bases are really strong. Blink Stalkers are going to be good as well. And then, yeah, so defensively versus a Terran player, though, this map is really hard to play on. You've got this pathway where they can run in units, which is much more effective than drop ships. Like, you can drop them off here and then run in. If they destroy these rocks, then once again they can run in units, which instead of unloading their units onto, you know, potentially your units that are defending here, they're now stimming in. So that's one reason why you need a sentry if they do destroy these rocks. But even assuming they don't destroy them, they have a lot of drop opportunities. If you're going to rely on observers, you probably need 2 for this side alone. And then I would say 1 down here, and then you also want to try to take this watchtower. And then, yeah. So you can see you're committing a lot of resources to just getting map vision alone. And then, of course, there's other things I can go into, but I'm not going to. I think this is pretty good. I'm gonna leave it at about this. But yeah, this is generally what you're gonna see in the future map videos that I'll be covering. They'll be a little bit shorter, hopefully, but there's a lot to talk about in this map. So yeah. Well, guys, I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any feedback or questions, of course, leave them in the comments below. For any other additional information that I might have forgotten about to talk about, that will be in the description. And thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I'll see you next time. It's raining.